when you should not reface your kitchen. In this video today, I will talk about the 4 situations where I personally do not recommend that you proceed with the refacing option, even though this is what we do every day here at Attimo. Let me explain why. The kitchen refacing options is the option that has the highest return of investment if done properly and in the right situations. If it's recommended in the wrong situations, it will do more harm than good. Let's talk about the first situation. The first situations where I don't recommend the refacing is when I have in front of me these solid face frame cabinetry and the customer is opting for a white or off-white or green, basically a solid color painted finish. In that case, wrapping the veneer around the frame causes a lot of chipping, and the final results are way below our standards, and they are really not acceptable at all. So in that case, I always recommend the customers to opt for another option, which could be brand new kitchen from scratch, or ordering the new doors but spraying the frame, assuming that the wood species allows that. Or finally, if let's say the countertop is very valuable and is liked by the owner, replace just the boxes on the wall, the upper boxes. Doing that, you'll get a better finish for the uppers, and you can hide the imperfections of the refacing for the bottom cabinets, adding drawers everywhere. So at the same time, your kitchen becomes even more functional. If the customer is opting for a stained look, then it's no problem. Even face frame cabinets could be refaced. Water damage. That's the second situation that will rule the refacing project out of question. But I'm not talking about the water damage that we usually find on sink cabinets, because that's an easy fix. We just rebuild that box and continue with the refacing project. I'm talking about when more than one box has been affected. In that case, I ask questions, and if I realize that, for instance, a flood happened a few years earlier, I always recommend the customer to just go with a brand new kitchen. See, what happens is when the gables touches the floor, that's particle board and absorbs the water like a sponge. And even when it dries up, it has lost that structural strength. So it is a good idea to start from scratch and abandon the refacing option. Different story if I realize that there was a flood, but there are plastic feet. So those plastic feet isolated the box from the water. That's a good thing. But be careful, because sometimes the water comes from inside the cabinets, for instance, from a leak from the drain or the hose. So in that case, the damage is done at the bottom of the cabinet, which is where those plastic feet are attached. So the screws don't have that grip that is necessary to guarantee that strength that you need, especially when you have a granite countertop sitting on those boxes. I've seen granite on the floor more than once. The third situation is the structural problems of the boxes. Now, that happens when the boxes have been built poorly by homeowner, or they're cheap boxes with the ready to assemble system that it's weak, or it could be a poor installation that has caused the boxes to be damaged, to basically go out of square. Let me explain better. Some installers don't use shims at all. They just screw these boxes into the wall, and as we know, walls are never flat. So that causes these boxes to go out of whack, out of square. Good luck to you trying to align all the doors when every single box is out of square. So when I see situations like that, I always recommend to start from scratch with a brand new kitchen to avoid problems. Never proceed with the refacing project if the boxes are all out of square. The fourth situation has nothing to do with the cabinet conditions, a lot to do with the scope of the renovation itself. Sometimes homeowners ask for modification of the layout. They want that box a little bit bigger. They want the peninsula to be deeper. They want to swap the pantry with the fridge cabinet. These things are possible. Sometimes they even ask to stretch the uppers to the ceiling. These things can be done, and the refacing could still be applied. We call those jobs hybrid jobs. However, when homeowners want to change where the sink, the stove, and the fridge is, now we are redesigning the kitchen. And some homeowners, obsessed with the return of investment that the refacing option offers, insist in making the new layout work with the old boxes. And it's something that it's not doable at all. And this is where I struggle to convince them that this is the time to let the refacing go, because the changes they're making are too radical. And forcing boxes that have been designed for a different layout will cost a lot of regrets. And to close this video, I want to make sure something is clear. Refacing offers the best return of investment ever, hands down. However, it has to be done in the right situations. If done in the wrong situations, you will regret it. And regrets are very expensive, emotionally and financially. So do yourself a favor. Make sure you're dealing with companies, with contractors that offer more than one service: refacing, refinishing, custom kitchens, and everything in between. This way, they'll be able to tailor the service according to your circumstances.